This is a speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe, good morning, everyone. This is a speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave in 1957 as a preparation for Passover. You know that in Passover, we begin the evening of Passover, everybody goes home after the prayers, it's holiday prayers, and we also say the Hallel in the nighttime. The only time we ever say in the nighttime is Hallel prayer, which is basically just, 7, 8 Psalms of King David. And then we go home and we make the Passover Seder to remind us of what we did 3,334 years ago when the Jewish people left Egypt. So Jews have been doing this basically nonstop. Actually, the 4 years that they were in the desert, they didn't do it, but nonstop, they have been celebrating this Passover ceremony. That's a long time, 3,334 years. And one of the commandments of the night is to eat matzah. And it used to be to make a sacrifice, a korban Passover lamb or goat, and to eat it together with matzah and bitter herbs. Those were also commandments. So today we don't have the sacrifice, the paschal lamb, as they call it, and we don't have the bitter herbs, but we do have a lot of the other commandments. And this is basically the first holiday. This is the holiday of commandments. The Jewish people got commandments. But one of the we eat matzah, and we have another commandment, and that is to relate sentences, to say sentences and praises of God, how He took us out of Egypt, relating what we can of going out of Egypt. So there is what's called a Haggadah. The rabbis, the first known printed one was about 1,000 years ago. Of course, there were no printing presses back then, but that was Sadia Gaon, I think. He had one. He had his version of how it was. And before that, also the Jewish people also did, but then they passed it down one from the other. Printing presses have only been around for like 500-600 years. So there's 1,200 something years ago from one of what's called the Gaonim. And then it's basically, that's what we have today. And so it starts off, all the things that these rabbis wrote, the Gaonim and the way before that, and what's called Ansei Knesset Gadol, the men of the Great Assembly, all these are according to very deep Kabbalistic principles. And what Kabbalah really is the, how do you say, the anatomy of all of the worlds, and how Jews affect all the worlds when they do commandments. So this is, of course, no exception. And everything here is very, very deep lessons. Everything in the world has deep lessons. Everything in the world is telling us something, right? Every rock, every bird, every wind. Of course, we don't understand. It says King Solomon used to understand. But everything is telling us something about how to serve God better, because they're all being created by God. So this is no exception. And here we have the Haggadah of Passover. So we learned a couple of things already. The Rebbe has a lot of explanations. There's a lot of great rabbis that have great, amazing commentary on the Haggadah Passover. So, okay, one of the things right in the beginning is the Torah tells us about 4 sons that come to the night of the Passover Seder. 4 sons. It says one son is wise, one son is evil, Russia, Chacham and Russia. One son is simple, and one son doesn't know how to ask. Doesn't know how to ask. And the Rebbe says that there's a 5th son, and that 5th son doesn't even come to the night of the Seder. He's not even there. And I say that there's a 6th son, and the 6th son is the Chabad Chassid, that he goes looking for the 5th son. He's also not in the night of the Seder. He's out somewhere in Timbuktu. He makes his own Seder, but he makes it in India or some weird place where all these, especially Israelis, are all scattered all over the place. In any case, let's go. Keneged arba banim divrei Torah. The Torah speaks about 4 sons. They come to the night of the Seder, because the son, this whole Seder passage, the word Seder means order. So this whole orderly night we do, this whole ritual that we do is very, very ordered. And it's according to this book. So there's questions that are asked and etc. So it says we invite four sons come to the Seder night for Divrei Torah. One is wise, one is evil, one is simple, and one doesn't know how to ask. That's what it says. 4 types of sons. You can say 4 types of Jews. 4 types of Jews. There's Jews that are wise. What do you mean they're wise? They do Torah, they do the commandments, they learn the Torah, try to understand the Torah. Russia means does absolutely nothing. It doesn't want to do anything. But he somehow or other comes to the Seder night. One is simple. He just does whatever he says. And one doesn't know how to ask any questions. But that's not a good thing. In Judaism, it's a very good thing to ask questions. I mean, you have to want to know the answers. You know, not just asking questions as to how smart you are, or ask questions like a newspaper reporter. Right? They ask questions as though they're really interested, and they're not interested at all. They don't care whatsoever. They just want to have a good report, whatever the good column. Okay, ready? 4 sons. First one is the smart one. Second one is the evil one. The third one is the simple one. The fourth one doesn't know what to ask. And their piska is not verstandig. It's not understood. This is not, seems to be arbitrary. And of course, it's not arbitrary. Nothing is arbitrary, especially in the Torah. Their Seder from the Arba Banim, the order from these 4 sons, where it's first of all, it puts the Russia, the evil son, the bad son, Leban next to the Chacham, next to the wise son. The Chor at first glance, Hoter Ze Gedarv Stein, other, if they should be ordered either according to the sentences in the Torah. Okay, there's 4 places in the Torah that says, and when your son asks you, when your son asks you, and there's the one that you should tell your son, or some places says even if your son doesn't ask you, you should tell your son. So this is interpreted by the rabbis to be 4 different types of sons, 4 different sentences in the Torah. One sentence is talking about, says the evil son. He says, what is all this work for you? What are you doing? The simple son, right? He's the one that says, what is this? The one that doesn't know what to ask, it's a sentence where you just tell him. And the wise son, he says also, what are these eidos and chukim and mishpatim? He has this question. 4 different types of sons. How do they appear in the Torah? The first one that appears in the Torah is the Russia. The second one is the simple one. The third, and the wise one is the last one. And here, but in the night of the Seder, we put the wise son the first. We put in the first. That's the big difference, right? Instead of putting him last, where he appears in the Torah, he was the last one, the last sentence to be in this order, as in the Haggadah, they put him first. And then after that, everything is the same, the evil ones. Other loitem chashivos, or maybe let's put him according to the Jewish importance. The wise son, of course, is very important. Simple, a person is simple. He's like a follower. He's in the crowd. He doesn't even know how to ask, right? He's the person that is hasn't got any questions, doesn't really understand anything. And the Russia, the evil son, he understands everything, and he's just really evil. He's bad. That you don't need a person like that. Just making trouble all the time. But here he is. He's in the Seder night. And not only is he in the Seder night, he's number 2. What is his importance of this bad son? But this is according to the importance of, also according to Kabbalah, the worlds. The worlds. According to Kabbalah, there are 4 dimensions of reality. Actually, there's much more, but 4 major dimensions of reality. If you want to say 4 dimensions of godliness, because God creates the world, he hides, he contracts himself. So that's what is implied in the Torah that God spoke. Just like speaking is a process that comes from a person's soul and goes into his emotions, and then it goes into his thought, and then finally into his speech. So also there's 4 different processes, 4 different levels of God's, I want to call it concealing himself. And that comes out like 4 different, if you want to call it dimensions. The highest is called Atzilut. The lowest is called Asiya. There's 2 in the middle. According to that, this also corresponds to these 4 sons. Vias is Faran, like it says in the Kisvei Arizal, in the writings of the great Kabbalist 450 years ago, the Arizal, as the Arba Bani, that the 4 sons, Zayin and Keneged, they correspond to the 4 worlds. Chacham is Atzilus. Okay, Abba, it says in a Kabbalistic idea. Chachma ilo makanani batzilus. It says that Chachma, the place of Chachma is in Atzilus. Russia, the evil son, he is in the last world. That corresponds to the last world. Let's see that the Klippas are here. The Tam is in the middle 2 worlds. The Tam and the Einu Diashol. So if so, the order should be that the wise man, he should be first. That's okay. But what's problem with this, the way that it is in the Haggadah, is that where the evil son is. What's the evil son doing number 2? The evil son should be, according to Kabbalah, he should be number 4. He's the lowest of the 4. So it doesn't come out according to any system. Why is it in this order? The wise son, the evil son, the simple one, and the one that doesn't know how to ask. How is it in this particular order? It doesn't go according to the sentences they appear. It's not according to their importance. It's not according to Kabbalah. In Pashtus can understand, simply we can understand like this. As a recht vi derech chachmayim, maybe we can say that this is according to their IQ. Oich ken men sagen as frier rechendem the katzei yoter elyon, or maybe we could say that first of all we have the highest, and then afterwards we put the lowest, and then the other 2 come later on. They say that the wise son, he's wise. The evil son, he's also wise, but he takes his wisdom and uses it for bad things, like Yerovam ben Nevat, we had it. In Torah is doch aber jeder inyan bediuk. In the Torah, everything is exact. Is wie bald as men stellt fart them Russia, because we have the Russia, the evil son is right next to the wise son. So we have to say that there must be something between them, a connection. Ubafrat, as there's Zog that says, 1 is a Russia, mit avav ve'echad Russia. How does it say in the Haggadah? Arba Bani, there's 4 sons. Echad chacham, 1 is wise, ve'echad, and 1 is evil. So the vav, it joins them together. And it could have said 1 is wise, 1 is evil. Why does it say vav? And it seems that this is joining them together. So we have to say that vipalt as a chacham, because of the chacham, the wise son, he's the highest level, right? In Judaism, there's nothing better than a person that learns the Torah and he does what it says in the Torah. And the Rasha is the person that is exactly the opposite. He doesn't do anything it says in the Torah. He goes against the Torah. And he goes against the commandments, everything. That's the Rasha. Because he's the Chacham is the highest as far as Judaism is concerned. And this, of course, is a Jewish night. It's a Jewish ritual that we're doing. So if so, the wise son, he's the highest. The Rasha is the lowest. Vi can men say, Stellen, how can you put one right next to the other and put a vav there and to join them together? There must be some intrinsic connection between this wise son and the evil son. What's going on? The Anfertzum, the Russia. Okay, so what is it? Question number 1. Question number 2. The evil son says, what are all these commandments to you? So you say to him, Pavor ki asa Hashem li b'tzeisim Mitzrayim. You tell him, you want to know what all these things, that's the evil question. The evil son asks the question. All of them ask the question, except for the one that doesn't know how to ask, of course, doesn't it? They all ask a question. Right? What's the question of the evil son? The evil son's question is, what is all of this for you? What are you doing all this? What are all these, right? This whole ritual. Let me go out, have a good time. What do I have to sit here and do this stuff for? So you answer him back and you say, this is because of what God did when he took us out of Egypt. What he did for me and not for you. If you were there back in Egypt, you wouldn't have even gotten out. That's what you tell the evil son. That's what it says in the book. Right? The evil son asks the question, what is all these commandments and things? What are you doing? And you say, these are all commandments for me. If you were back there in Egypt, you wouldn't have even gotten out. What type of an answer is that? That's not understandable. Oiber is in ganzen kein Sheichus nit the Yitzias Mitzrayim. If the evil son hasn't got any connection to going out of Egypt, what are you saying? If you were back then, you wouldn't have even gotten out. So is wie kommt there in the Haggadah? So why even mention him in the Haggadah? Why is he even sitting there at all? I mean, he's right. He's right to be a bad son, right? He's saying, I got no place in Judaism. I wouldn't even gotten out. Was Redman vegan in the Seder? What are we talking about him in the loyal Seder Pesach? Und men heist noch vernehmen sich mit him, and we have to even deal with him. We can listen from Haggadah for Omerlo. You say to him, right? He says, what are these commandments? You should just point to the door, and say one word. Say, leave. That's all. No, we put the wise son the wise son is right next to him, and we give him an answer, and we say, if you were back there, you wouldn't have gotten out. What type of an answer is that? Let's see. Gimel. It says in the writings of the Arizal, as the Arba says that the four cups, they correspond to the four sons. The first three sons, so the first cup, that is the Chacham. The second cup that we drink in the nighttime, that's the Rasha, etc. It says, the Ikar Haggadah, the main Haggadah of this commandment that we do in the nighttime, talking praises about God and how he took us out of Egypt, we say that on the second cup. We make Kiddush on the first cup, we fill up a cup, a second cup, and on that second cup, we say the whole entire Haggadah, and there's times when we lift the cup up, and the time of the Haggadah, we spill a little bit out, we fill it up. The whole Haggadah, the whole mitzvah of the nighttime is said on the second cup. If so, as Vibal, we say to the evil son, if you would have been back there in Egypt, you wouldn't have even gotten out of Egypt, you would have died back there in the darkness. If so, how can it be that we're saying the whole Haggadah on the second cup? That's the cup of the evil son. The whole entire cup of the night is said on the cup of the evil son, and that cup is filled, standing in front of us, filled longer than anything else in the night of Passover. So if so, it seems that this evil son is pretty important. He's number two, and the whole entire the Haggadah that we say is on the evil son's cup. Daled, fourth question. Nach der Akdama from Haggadah after we have the Haggadah, and the Haggadah tells about the four sons, mitten kavius man, and the time is Yochel. It says over there, afterwards, the four sons, then it changes the subject a little bit. And it says, you might think that we should make the night of the Seder on Rosh Chodesh, the first day of Nisan. In fact, it's on the 15th day of Nisan. You might think that we make it on the first day. It says, Chodesh Hazeh. It starts talking about how the Jews got out of Egypt. In the beginning, we were servants of the Jewish people. They were worshiping idols, and came along Abraham, and he changed the whole thing. The Gemara says we start off with bad things. That's how the Seder Passover starts off. The Jewish people were idolaters until came along Abraham, And Abraham, he set up a whole new thing, a whole new world. So this says we start off the Haggadah of Passover by saying bad things about the Jews. That's it says, beganut. Is nifverstaan. This is not understood. Be'etmen sitzt sich avech. We're sitting on the Passover and the Seder, the night of Passover, and we're talking about the good things, how the Jews were slaves in Egypt, and how the Jews suffered in Egypt, and how God had mercy on the Jews. Was is da nogea tartzun parsun? What do we have to say things about what happened before the Jews went down, before Abraham, and for them sight from Abraham, even before the time of Abraham? What do we have to say things about bad things about the Jews when they weren't even Jews yet? There wasn't even Jews. Why start off saying bad things about Abraham? I mean, Abraham, he was like, what is it? 200 years, 250 years before the Jews got out of Egypt. Abraham was like 250 years. He was born 250 years before the Jews got out of Egypt. And here we're talking about what happened before that, right? The Jews, they were idol worshippers. Everyone was idol worshippers. Abraham stood up and he started Judaism. What do we care about that for? Why put that in the Haggadah of Passover? Why? Okay, so we have all these questions that we're asking about essentially bad. Why do we take this evil son, put him number 2? Why do we tell the evil son that he's more evil than he thinks? He really shouldn't even be sitting in the night of the Passover, right? He wouldn't even gotten out of Egypt back then. Why tell him a thing like that? Also, why we see that the second cup, which corresponds to the evil son, that's the whole entire night, is set on the second cup. The second cup is sitting in front of it. Right? We drink 4 cups. The second one is on the saying of the Haggadah. And finally, the last question is, why do we start the Haggadah of bad things? It says you have to start with ganut, with saying bad things about the Jews. And we say things that even before the Jews even were Jews. What do we care about that? What's that relevant? Okay, the answers are going to be better than the questions. The questions are pretty good. Yud. The Gemara says, the Gemara says, even though that a Jew sins, he's a Jew. Even though that a Jew sins, he is still a Jew. Every single Jew, in welchem matzav time, whatever, no matter what he's doing or what he's thinking or where he is, he has a point of Judaism, even if he doesn't know he's Jewish. His mother didn't know she was Jewish. His grandmother did. There's Jews from Russia. The grandmother didn't know. Word from Kavod Kodesh Morichama, like the previous Rebbe said, Echad Chacham, Echad Russia. We say in the Haggadah, we say there are 4 sons. One is wise, one is evil, and one is evil. Each one has the one. In Yeder Einam from them is, and every single Jew is this Echad. Russia, even in the evil son. Nor by him is far bargain. By him, it's just concealed. On men darfet unpluck, and you have to reveal it. Der Echad in Yeder Yidden, the one in every Jew, is verbunden mit Chachma shebenefesh, is connected with this level which is called Chachma of his soul. Chachma is faith, pure life, above understanding. Therefore, Steltman, the Russia, therefore the evil son is put right next to the wise son, Chacham. Why? To Vezen, to indicate as Oich der Russia, that also this Russia, the evil son, he also has this Echad, this oneness of God. Because he also has this level which is called Chachma, pure godliness in his soul. Every Jew. That's why the Jews are called sons of God. It's in the 2nd chapter of the Tanya. Der Choiv, oy vernehmen sich mit Russia, the obligation that we have to occupy ourselves with the evil son to elevate him, is nit kein kleiner, is no less important, wie der Chov from vernehmen sich mit dem Tam v'she'enu yidei lishol. Is no less important than occupying ourselves with the illiterate son and the son that simply doesn't know how to ask any questions. Unafilu mitn chacham, even with wise people. You might think Judaism, you learn Torah, you should increase Judaism. What are you wasting your time on evil Jews for? It's just a waste of time. Here, get pupils that are interested in learning, they're thirsty for knowledge, they're sincere, they'll carry out what you tell them to do. An evil son, it could be that he'll scoff at everything. You're wasting your energy. Says the Rebbe, no. As is dach keneged arba banim divrei Torah. The Torah takes into account all four types of sons. Don't think that if a Jew is outside of the Torah, then that's it. He's outside, he doesn't want anything to do with the Torah, then therefore the Torah doesn't have anything to do with him. No, it's not so. The Torah includes all the different types of Jews. And not to give them punishment, as is a dibur from Torah, the word of the Torah, so farnemenzich, we have to deal with every Jew and reveal his true identity. Ubamela, therefore, seinen alle Eufen selben Wegschall. All of the Jews are on the same, so to speak, the same wagon. While in the Torah is yeder dibur, prati benogea zu ganz Torah, because every single word of the Torah relates to all of the whole entire Torah. So if it says in the Torah there's a place for the evil son, it doesn't mean that he should be evil, but it means that although he is evil, he's not gone outside of the arms of the Torah. Bishat is felt in Ein Ot. If there's missing one letter in the Torah, in a Sefer Torah, is there does nogea the ganzen kedusha from all osios. If one letter in the Sefer Torah is missing, then that makes all of the other letters, it makes them less, less holy. Nit kuken dikvas farai os. This doesn't make any difference what letter it is. As is nit nogea tzi as is a far. If it's a letter verbunden mit dem echad chacham, otzi mitten av, whether the son verbunden mit dem echad chacham, tzi, or whether mitten av was zu im is the tzivoy, or it's to the father, namely the father. The chacham is like the father, that he has to tell his sons, the Ab, Avinu B'Shamayim, and who is the Father over here? We're talking about our Father in heaven, God. Was farnem far, 1 second, far Enfert, which he answers in unemt, which he far Enfert, which he answers, and he accepts all questions. Other as is verbunden mit the Russia, or whether the evil son, Yeder dibur trak by zu the shleimus akadusha and klolos of Torah. Every letter of the Torah. Listen, it's a strange law. Every letter in the Torah is necessary for the whole entire Torah. If one letter is missing, then the whole entire Torah is not good. There's some opinions that say that just that book is no good, but that's not the way things are done. If the one letter is missing in the Torah, then the whole entire Torah is no good. And if so, here we're talking about that the Rebbe is saying like this: it's impossible for the evil son, for Jews that have left Judaism or totally outside of Judaism, it's impossible that they can be erased from the Torah. They can be covered up. It can look like maybe there's something broken, you have to fix it up. But nevertheless, every single one is relevant to the whole entire Torah and important. What does it mean? So this is also hinted at in the fact that what the rabbis say, Israel, who even though that he sins, he is still a Jew. Lashon Razal, the rabbis is very, very exact. Farvos state their Lashon Yisrael, even though he is a sinner, a Jew is a sinner, but Yisrael, who is Yisrael. Yisrael is the highest name you can call a Jew. There's Yeshurun, there's Bnei Yaakov, there's the highest name you can call a Jew is Yisrael. Lechora Hadkadar stand nit Israel. You could say Yehudi. Oh, there's another name. Yehudi und Azoi das Gleichen, similar, etc. Yisrael is the first letters. So why are we saying every Jew is a Yisrael? Even if he's a sinner, even if he changes his religion, he's against Judaism, but nevertheless he's a Jew. Why? So he's a Jew, a Yehudi, he's a Jew. Why say Yisrael? Yisrael is the first letters, the initials. Yesh Shishim Riboy Osios the Torah. There are 10,000 letters of the Torah, 600,000 letters of the Torah. This is according to Kabbalah. You have to figure it out because physically there aren't that many letters in the Torah. But that's if you take the punctuation. There's different ways. In any case, there's 600,000. Thus made this meant. Punktazo, exactly where. The same way that the ganzen Torah, that the whole entire depends on every single letter, like I said before. Azoi Zoi Chlol Yisrael, also all the Jewish people. This depends on every Jew. Barim atem l'Shem Elokechem. Every single Jew is a son of God. Un Avinu Shabashamayim, and our Father in heaven. Zayin Allah Kivyachal, Zayin Allah Kivyachal Talui in Yeder Eden Befrat. So every single Jew depends on every single other Jew. Durch dem was men vet arayin nemen, that you take the evil son and you take him into the Seder Pesach, you put him in the book. As vet zich oisfiren to klaus hakavana from alle inyan. So this, in fact, is the most important thing. If one Jew is not in Judaism, so that affects all Judaism. And if there are Jews that want to leave Judaism, you have to give a special attention to that Jew. That's why the second cup is the main cup of the cup of the evil son is the main one. That's the whole main point of Judaism, is that every Jew is precious, like a Sefer Torah. Right? If there's one letter is missing. Nachatam, another reason for that we have put the evil son right next to the smart son. So the first reason, why do we put the evil son next to the smart son? Because the smart son has to deal with the evil son. It's very, very important. That should be his main occupation. And thinking about Jews that are making the all of Judaism affected negatively. You have to bring them back. Put them in the night of the Seder. Put them right next to the Chacham. Here's another reason why. So you can say, okay, listen, so you want to bring him in, bring him in. Why does he have to be number two? What's he so important? Number two. Put him last, but at least he's there. Says, Ver can Megala, who is the only one that can reveal this echad, this oneness of God, which is in every single Jew, even in this evil son. Who can do it? Was gefinzich in Russia, the oneness which is in the evil son, der Chacham Davka, only the wise son. Der Tam, midden she'eni de lishol, haben kein koach nit. The simple son and the son that doesn't know how to ask, they haven't gotten the power to deal with the evil son, with the rebellious son, to elevate him. Der Chacham, the wise son, which he is, the Katzei Elyon, which he is the highest, Davka hat b'koach, he's got the power to reveal the oneness which is in the evil son. Va'al derech kol ha'gavoa yoter, like it says, whatever is the highest has the ability to come down the lowest. And therefore, and still retain his true identity. Anybody can go down low. You don't have to have that, but that he can bring the Torah down and still retain the holiness of the Torah and have an effect on the lowest person. Only the wise son can do that. And therefore is men masmig. Therefore we put we juxtapose. We put next to the evil son, we put the wise son. Val zayin hala, because to elevate him, it depends on the wise son specifically. This is also why it says the four sons, according to corresponding to four sons, the Torah speaks. Torah is Horah, is a teaching. Torah is Horah in Avoda, vi oisfirin de kavana. The Torah comes to teach us how to what is the purpose of every creation. Therefore is the Seder mitzvah Torah. Therefore the Torah tells us the one son is wise and one is evil. The Torah puts the evil son next to the smart son, and he puts the smart son next to the evil son. Why? In them Seder, according to the worlds, the evil son should be the last, like we said before. This is Asiya, the world of Asiya. This is the lowest of the worlds. They're Indian from Torah, but the thing of Torah is, in them is Dach, Niter Olam, not the world should remain as it is, that the evil son, the lowest world, should be low. Nor Malazan, Yether Indian, our thing is to elevate everything. Therefore is Mitzvah Torah, the Seder, the order of the Torah is, Russia, the evil son, comes right next to the wise son. But Durach Im is Zayin Allah. Therefore, the Torah says that there's going to be sons, there's going to be Jews that are going to leave Judaism, there's going to be Jews that are going to oppose Judaism. And those Jews are our obligation to deal with. Bring them into the Seder and put him number 2, right next to the, why not? So put him number 1. Says, no, he has to be changed. He has to be changed. The only one that can do it is the wise son. Therefore, Vetman Oich verstehen, we can also understand why the previous Rebbe, he said, by Zayin and Nemen, by the Nante Mekishorim, that was Zei Mekusharim B'Yoser, why the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he took the Hasidim that were the greatest scholars, and they were the ones that are closest to him, and they were the ones that really, every moment of their time, they used for holiness, and Oskim Bavodas Tefillah, and they prayed with great length and etc., and doing the commandments with tremendous hidur. Azay Zolen Farnemen mit Anashim Pshutim, that they should go out and deal with simple people. On learning mitzvah and teaching them in Yani Pshutim, simple things like alef base. Tzika Pshuto. See the alef, whether the alef base in serving God, whether the alef base in just reading Hebrew, or the alef base in serving God, just the basics of Judaism. In Plug, at first glance, this doesn't make any sense. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe took his wisest and greatest, most talented and experienced pupils, that they could have really served him and built up Chabad better, and make new buildings. And what did he do? He sent them out to places where they had to waste their time with simple Jews that asked stupid questions, and a lot of times it didn't have any results at all. It's not that these rabbis came, and where they are, they come into a room, this is Rabbi Hecht, Rabbi this, everybody knows who they are, they give them the respect that's coming to them, and they listen to what they have to say, and they teach them things. And here he goes, sends them out to people that, who is this? Who are you? Some guy with a beard. What do I need you for? Right? Where he is, everybody appreciates him. Nobody appreciates him. He's in everybody's, leave me alone. No, you're a Jew. Leave me alone. I don't want to be bothered. Don't bother me. Come, let me teach you something. Let me tell you something. I don't want to hear. I don't want to know. That's where he sent them. And it doesn't make any sense. Why did he have to send out the most talented and the highest of his pupils? Does happen that you can't turn under. He could have sent out simple pupils that can't learn. So all they know let's say, is they know alef base. They know it really good. They know the alphabet. They can read. Send them out to these totally ignorant people, and they can teach them. At least they won't be wasting so much time, right? They won't be wasting so much time. Every day they spend 5 minutes learning Torah. They spend the 15 minutes praying, and the rest of the time they do nothing. That type of person you should send. Says, no, why do you have to send and the people which are so high? Is Zayin Yediyah nach als genug? You can send a simple pupil that he knows much more than this totally illiterate, not observant Jew. Why did the previous Rebbe have to send his highest pupils? Und die Mekusharim Biyoter sollen sich aufgeben, nor mit Steigen and Limud Torah. They should be elevating themselves and learning Torah, prayer, etc. Why did he have to send them out to deal with these simple Jews that didn't even want to hear anything from them? Is their time? The reason is So Russia, to elevate the evil son, Hanamach, which is the lowest, this is by means of, it can only be means of by the highest. Biyoter, Davka. Durach them, Gresten Chacham, from the highest and the wisest wise man. Why? I'll tell you another reason why is because a lot of times these simple Jews, whatever, they look at another person and they want to see, what is his personality like? Has the Torah affected a person positively? Right? If you take a simple person that doesn't know very much, right, but he knows a little bit of Torah, one of the pupils, a not so successful pupil, he sends him out. It could be a pupil like that the Torah hasn't had an effect on him. Number one, it could be that he'll be affected by the evil person. And also, it's not really, doesn't show that the Torah really does positive things to you. By sending out one of these big wise men that the previous Rebbe, so people say, hey, the Torah does some nice things to people. Look at this person, right? He has a sense of humor, and he's very calm, and he's very loving, he's very patient, right? He's very intelligent. Oh, that's a nice thing, you know. So in more detail, we can say like this. There's another teaching. The rush of the evil son, hat men zal nit arup fallen by zich. We're telling, so now what are they giving the message to the evil son? Don't give up. Varum euch hata hoffening. You have hope. Der Eibishter schickt him zu a chacham. God sent to you a big, wise rabbi. Soll mashpia sein, to have some sort of a positive influence on you. On orois helfen im zu verbessern, in order to improve your ways. As manzich nor from him, what's required? Soll nitvosef Varen, you just have to add on a little bit. That's what the vav. Un varen a tafel to the chacham. All the evil person has to do is saying, listen, we sat you next to the wise person because we want the wise person to have an effect on you. Just remember you're number two. Make him number one, you're number two. But you should know you're very important. Number two, the chacham learned men, the chacham Erzal nit tainen, of the wise son. Here's a big message for the number one. The number one might say, what do I have to deal with these evil people for? Yaveh Rasha, let him suffer for his own ignorance, not my problem. Vos hat it to mitten Russia. What do I have to deal with him? Right? He knows there's such a thing as religious Judaism. He doesn't want it. So, let everybody do what they want. Zella for learn Vern in Zain Rishois. Let him exactly the opposite. I'm working so hard. I'm learning Torah. I want to get a reward. Why should he get a reward? Right? Here, I've been learning Torah for 50 years, and this guy has been learning Torah nothing. He's not doing any commandments, nothing. Now I'm going to teach him, right, and elevate him. In 1 minute, he's going to be, and he deserves punishment. He says, God forbid, don't ever think of something like that. The message of the night of the Passover is telling the evil son, don't worry, you have hope. We want you. Judaism is very important to you also. We want to elevate you. To the wise son, we say, don't think that the evil person is someone that's out of the camp, that you don't have to deal with him. Exactly the opposite. You have to worry for him. Nor call Yisrael, all the Jewish people are mixed in one with the other and responsible one and the other. It's a little bit long. Okay, we'll just go up to here for today. It's an obligation that you have to deal. It's an obligation for every Jew to find a Jew that knows less and to deal with him. Try to have an influence on him. Oichdem Russia, even the evil son, nor in them is the Tanai. But you should deal with the evil son. But there's a condition. What's the condition? Their remez is Vav Mosaf. It says that there's the wise son and the evil son. Erzol zen der Russia soll nicht vose werden zu him. You have to be careful that the evil son is drawn to you. Erzol nit mushpa makabel. Erzol sein makubel from the chacham. That the evil son should receive from the wise son. Es ist verstandig, as oib men mont zu vernehmen sich, but if you're dealing with the evil son, is mit. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped the line. Soll nit mushpa, but he should not be. I'm sorry. Un nit farkeret chas v'shalom, and not the opposite, right? The wise son goes out to have an effect on the evil son, and suddenly the evil son might have a bad effect on the wise son. Okay, Rabbi, you want to have an effect on me here? Let's smoke some marijuana together, and then you can have an effect on me. There was a big person in Chabad that unfortunately did that. This was a long time ago, and he took LSD in order to understand, and he got that. He says his mind became scrambled, and he made all sorts of weird ideas about Judaism and etc. That you have to be careful that you are not affected by the bad son. As his verstandig understood, as oib men mont zu vernehmen sich, I feel with the Russia that if you're dealing with the evil son, here we're talking about evil, and not that he's necessarily a murderer, but just that he lives his own life. He's not controlled by the Torah at all. Is mitatam a tipish a fool sheini diashol alachas kama v'kama. How much more so with an evil son, where it's clear that you're not going to that his ways are opposite of yours. But if you're dealing with a simple son or with a child that doesn't know what to ask, so you might think, I have to really come down to his level, right? I have to really look like him and act like him and be friendly and agree to everything that they do. You have to be careful that you're not affected by them, that you don't give a okay to what they're doing and even start to enjoy it. Because after all, this, what we call the evil son, he's doing because he enjoys it, right? He's enjoying it. And it could be that you're doing Judaism and you don't enjoy it so much, right? And so you say to yourself, hey, why don't I just be myself, just enjoy it? Because the answer is that the Rebbe is trying to get across to us, a Jew's real, true self that he enjoys is to do what God wants. And even though it might mean making certain sacrifices, and you won't be able to drive your motorcycle on Shabbat and things like that, but that's also gives a Jew pleasure to know that he's making a sacrifice for the truth. Okay, we still have some more questions, but I just want to say one of the answers over here, because it's late, that we asked the question, how can you say to the evil son, if you would have been back there in Egypt, you wouldn't have gotten out? And the Rebbe is going to say it. We'll learn this tomorrow. True, if you would have been in Egypt, you wouldn't have gotten out. But that's before the Torah was given. After the Torah was given, everybody gets out. Every Jew can wake up as Judaism. And these are the words of the Moshiach. To wake up every single Jew, that's one of the conditions of Moshiach has to have. To wake up every single Jew in the world to their true identity. To want to serve the creator of the universe according to the Torah in the happiest way possible. And to bring this message to all mankind. That God is good, God creates everyone. And all mankind is what they call 7 Noahide commandments. That's the point of the night of the Seder. Wise man, don't remain alone. Deal with the evil person. That's why we put him next to you. Elevate him. Show him how good he really is, truly. What his potential is. And that's our responsibility to the whole world. That was begun by Abraham. Abraham was called Av Hamon Goyim, the father of all mankind. This will bring a good, happy Shabbos for everybody. But we'll finish this, God willing. We're on Yud Zion. We'll finish this, God willing, tomorrow, Yom Rishon. Let's just do the Yom Yom for today and for... Here we go. The Alter Rebbe's father's name was Borochovich, the first Rebbe of Chabad. The middle Rebbe's father's name was Shniri. But Tzemach Tzedek's name was Schneerson. And from that, the name Schneerson came to all the Chabad Rebbes. Tomorrow, Shabbos. Every soul has a particular reason it came to the world, a particular service it has to do. According to that soul's nature, how to use your mind, how to use your emotions. Like it says, from my foes, you have given me wisdom. From your evil tendencies, from your selfish traits, you can become wise and understand how to handle and correct your natural character traits, your animal soul, and how to elevate these natural powers in order to serve the creator of the universe. Have a good day. Have a good Shabbos, Shabbat. Haggadol, this is the big Shabbos. Big miracles happened. It says that this was the Shabbat when the Egyptians fought within themselves. Right? God, the Jews took a goat or a sheep and tied it to their bed. And the sheep was the god of the Egyptians. And the Egyptians said, what are you doing? They said, oh, God's going to kill all the firstborn. This was the last plague. The firstborn said, well, we already saw 9 plagues. Let's go to Paro and tell him to get rid of these Jews. Right? They're destroying the whole country. They went to Paro, and Paro said, no way. I'm not backing down. You got problems? Be men. He said, hey, we're firstborn. We don't want to get killed. And Paro said, show them the door. And they made a war. The firstborn made a war against Paro. That's what it says, Makim Mitzrayim b'Bechorim. And that happened on this Shabbos, before they left Egypt. So that's the big miracle that happened on this day. And the Rebbe explains why, but we'll talk about it, God willing. And the reason is that bad itself came to serve God. Right? First time it ever happened, such a thing. Have a good Shabbos. Have a big Shabbos. God willing, we'll see each other on Sunday, 8:15 in the morning. Shalom, everyone.